No more leaked dates. We actually have a date from Nikon this time around on their Twitter and Facebook page telling us when the next major announcement's going to be. Is it going to be for the Nikon Z8, the Nikon Z6 Mark III, the Z7 Mark III, or the new, well, Nikon ZXX? Details coming up, but first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, choose all notifications, like, comment, and all that good stuff, as I appreciate it and it really helps this channel grow. This is not some sort of leaked information coming from some unknown, untrusted source. This is coming directly from Nikon Philippines. This is their Facebook page. And if we go down just a little bit, before the contact information, before the message information, down a little further, I know it's not in the featured section, but take a look right here. Here we go. Nikon, save the date, 03/25/2023. Wow, feels good, doesn't it? We actually have a date from Nikon, March the 25th. It's actually just less than a month away, March the 25th, when we get the announcement of, well, what camera are we going to get an announcement of? Is it going to be the Nikon Z8? You got to admit, that's the one camera that everyone's talking about that we're hoping to get very, very shortly. In less than a month to get an announcement of the Nikon Z8? Or could it be the Nikon Z6 Mark III? Maybe even the Nikon Z7 Mark III, another camera, or this image of the Nikon ZXX. I personally think that the Nikon ZXX isn't a whole new camera. They're just using that XX to cross out what would actually show up there. And this is a rather small looking camera. I don't think this is going to be a mini Z9 such as the Z8. It actually looks like, and some of you nail this, more of what you'd expect from an APS-C mirrorless camera. But the date, we have a date from Nikon coming up on March the 25th, and I really do hope that is the Nikon Z8. Looking forward to this. I'm pretty excited by this. The Nikon Z8, that would be really nice. Which camera do you think we're going to get announced? And how many announcements do you think we're getting from Nikon this year? I personally don't think they're going to be separated by no more than 2 to 3 months. If we do get an announcement in March, it's possible that we could have another announcement later in May or June, but most likely after that, it would be September or October. We're expecting a lot from Nikon this year. They definitely need to release the Z8, the Z6 Mark III, most likely a Z7 as well, the Mark III. We're expecting an awful lot from Nikon this year. The Z8 for sure, the Z6 Mark III. But what about the Z7 Mark III? A new, well, update to an APS-C line or an entry-level full-frame camera. Nikon is behind the times a little bit. We all know this. We want to see some more from Nikon. We want to see a refresh of their lineup. We want to see the Nikon Z8 as a challenger to the two R5s, the Canon R5 and the recently announced and shipping Sony A7 R5. Both of those cameras have already set the scene for what the Nikon Z8 is going into that marketplace. It's a rather small marketplace with, well, basically those two cameras. So Nikon knows what they need to do to compete. The question is, are they going to hit higher? Are they going to produce a camera that's better than the Canon EOS R5? A camera that's already been out for close to 3 years, 2 3/4 years, the Canon EOS R5. And of course the Sony A7 R5, well, that was announced in late October and has only been shipping for just over a couple of months now. So there's a lot of hope and anticipation that Nikon's going to do with the Z8, what they did with the Z9, and the Z9 completely impressed people. Everything that camera does, no other camera could do at the time, pushing video at 8K 60, 1.2 gigabytes per second bandwidth, shooting 20 frames per second at 45.7 megapixels, lossless RAW. It's a truly impressive camera, and I think that's the same expectation. But also, the Z9 was $1,000 less than the competition, $1,000 less than the Canon 1DX Mark III, $1,000 less than the Sony A7 R5, than the Sony Alpha 1. And the Alpha 1, you had to spend about another $400 after tax, so $350 US plus taxes and shipping, to essentially get the same thing you would get with a Canon or a Nikon, because the Sony Alpha 1 didn't come with an extended battery life, that battery grip. So yeah, you know, $6,500 for the Alpha 1, and then add another $400 for the grip, and you had the Nikon Z9 at just under $5,500. So save the date, something's coming up soon. Nikon Rumours is really covering this very actively, and they've been talking about an awful lot of dates that are rumored. But this is something we have from Nikon. We know this is coming up in March. I can't see any other date prior to that from Nikon. This is the date to watch for. Now, the only question is time. And because we have that international date line, it could be March the 25th in Asia and then March the 24th here in North America. Or as I think Canon did recently, they had an announcement and it was like, what was it, 2350 or 2350 Japanese local time on a given date, and then earlier in that day around 10 o'clock Eastern time, it was the same date. But sometimes what they do is they'll do an announcement at midnight, which makes it the next day. So in this case, March the 25th, that would make it around 10 a.m. March the 24th, depending on how they go about doing it. But this is leaked from, not leaked, this is actually published from Nikon Philippines. So it seems like they're leading with the Asian times here. So consider it to be March the 24th here in North America and Europe. So really excited. But what camera do you think we're going to get? And also, what do you think are going to be the leaked specifications for this camera? Let me know in the comment section down below. There's one more thing I want to tell you about before I finish off this video. I've got a rather large review of the history of Sony digital cameras that's going to be coming out Sunday, tomorrow morning, in about, well, I guess almost 12 hours now, 12 to 16 hours. And that video is going to take a look at the very first Mavica digital camera that was, well, unveiled in 1981 and again in 1987. We'll take a look there. We'll take a look at the history of Sony leading up into the Cybershot line and the Alpha line. And one of the things I decided not to spend a lot of time covering was the modern APS-C line of Sony, which is the A6100, 64, 6500 and all that stuff. I really wanted to go back into the history of Sony, the history of the corporation and how they started out as an electronic telecommunications company and how they're now in this big juggernaut that they are today, producing something like, what, $82 billion US in fiscal 2022. So that video is coming out tomorrow morning. So hopefully you like it. Let me know what you think about that video in the comment section below for that video, which is probably going to have this thumbnail. I haven't completely settled on the thumbnail at this point, but if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors from all the major camera brands, specifically Nikon, Canon, Sony, and the whole rest, well then go ahead, do yourself a favor, subscribe and choose all notifications. And by choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here, well, you'll get an update so that way you can stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors. One other thing though, if you do that, make sure the emails don't show up in your spam filter or trash. That can sometimes happen. And if you want to help support this channel, please consider using my affiliate links down below. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.